Lisa stood at the front of the classroom, her heart pounding as she faced 30 pairs of curious eyes. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. She could see the confusion and amazement on her classmates' faces, could feel Professor Williams staring at her with a mixture of shock and growing understanding. There was no going back now. Her carefully guarded secret was completely exposed. Lisa began, then stopped. How could she possibly explain? How could she tell them about the life she had left behind, the dreams she had sacrificed, the brilliant future she had walked away from to take care of her family? Professor Williams cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Miss Rodriguez, I think we need to talk after class," he said quietly. His voice had lost all traces of the arrogance and intimidation that usually marked his interactions with students. Instead, there was something that sounded almost like respect. "Can someone explain what just happened?" asked Jake from the front row, his voice carrying the bewilderment that everyone in the room was feeling. "I mean, how did she just solve that problem like it was basic algebra?" Lisa looked down at her hands, still holding the marker. She had worked so hard to blend in, to be invisible, to avoid exactly this kind of attention. Now she was the center of everyone's focus, and she didn't know how to handle it. The rest of the class period passed in a blur. Professor Williams attempted to continue with the planned lesson, but it was clear that everyone's attention was elsewhere. Students kept glancing at Lisa, whispering among themselves, trying to process what they had witnessed. Lisa returned to her seat in the back corner, but she might as well have been sitting on stage with a spotlight on her. When class finally ended, Lisa packed her things slowly, hoping that her classmates would leave quickly and she could speak with Professor Williams privately. But several students approached her before she could escape. "That was amazing," said Michelle, the engineering student. "I've never seen anyone solve a problem like that so quickly. Where did you learn to do that? Are you actually a graduate student or something?" asked Kevin, looking genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Lisa managed to give vague responses, and eventually the other students left, though she could see them continuing their discussions in the hallway. Finally, she was alone with Professor Williams, who was organizing his papers at the front of the room with unusual care. 32 years, he said, without looking up. "I've been teaching for 32 years, and I have never seen anything quite like what happened today." Lisa remained silent, unsure of what to say. Professor Williams finally looked up at her. "That problem was designed to be impossible for an undergraduate student. I created it specifically to be beyond the scope of this course. And you solved it using methods that I would expect to see in a doctoral dissertation." "Professor Williams, I can explain," Lisa started. "Please," he interrupted, gesturing to a chair near his desk. "Sit down, and please help me understand who you really are." Lisa sat down slowly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a moment, she considered trying to maintain her facade, to somehow explain away what had happened. But she was tired of hiding, tired of pretending to be less than she was. "My name is Lisa Rodriguez," she began quietly, "and I have a PhD in applied mathematics from MIT. Professor Williams leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting from surprise to something approaching awe. "MIT," he repeated. "One of the top programs in the country. I graduated 6 years ago," Lisa continued, her voice growing stronger. "I was doing research in optimization theory and mathematical modeling. I had papers published in top journals. I was supposed to start a postdoc position at Stanford." "What happened?" Professor Williams asked gently. Lisa took a deep breath. "My mother got sick, really sick. The doctor said she needed constant care, and my younger brother was only 16. My father had left when we were kids, so it was just the three of us. Someone had to take care of them." She paused, remembering those difficult days when her entire world had changed overnight. "I tried to do both at first. I thought I could continue my research while taking care of my family, but it was impossible. My mother needed me and my brother needed stability, so I made a choice." "You left your PhD program," Professor Williams said, understanding. "I left everything," Lisa confirmed. "I found a job doing data analysis at night so I could be home during the day." It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills and let me use some of my mathematical skills. I put my brother through high school, made sure he got into college on a scholarship. And your mother? Lisa's voice grew quiet. She passed away last year. Peacefully, at home, with me holding her hand. She was proud that I had taken care of the family. She never regretted that I gave up my career for them. Professor Williams was quiet for a long moment, processing what Lisa had told him. And now you're here, taking undergraduate classes. Why? Because I want to come back, Lisa said, her voice filled with determination. My brother is in college now, doing well. For the first time in 6 years, I have the chance to return to mathematics. But it's been so long. I thought I needed to start over, to refresh my knowledge before trying to get back into academia. So you've been hiding your abilities, Professor Williams said, making yourself appear average. Lisa nodded. I was afraid that if people knew about my background, they would ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. I was afraid of the attention, of having to explain why I was starting over. I just wanted to quietly get back into mathematics without anyone noticing. Professor Williams stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the campus. Do you know what I thought when I first noticed you were holding back? He asked. That I was being dishonest? Lisa replied. I thought you were cheating somehow, or that you were disrespecting my class by not taking it seriously. He turned back to face her. I was angry. I designed that problem today to humiliate you, to expose what I thought was some kind of academic fraud. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. You were trying to humiliate me? Yes, Professor Williams said, his voice heavy with regret. And instead you showed me something I had never seen before. You showed me what true mathematical brilliance looks like. More than that, you showed me the cost of my assumptions. He returned to his desk and sat down heavily. I've spent my career judging students, deciding who belongs and who doesn't, who's serious and who's not, but I never stopped to consider that someone might have reasons for hiding their abilities. I never considered that brilliance might come disguised as humility. Lisa watched as Professor Williams struggled with this realization. She could see that her story had affected him deeply. What you did today, he continued, solving that problem with such elegance and grace, it reminded me why I fell in love with mathematics in the first place. But more importantly, your story reminds me that every student who walks into my classroom has a life outside these walls, experiences and challenges that I know nothing about. He looked directly at Lisa. I owe you an apology, not just for today, but for every assumption I made about you over the past few weeks. You deserved better from me, and from this institution. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. She had expected anger, accusations, maybe even dismissal from the class. She had never expected understanding, much less an apology. Professor Williams, she said quietly, I understand why you were suspicious. I know my behavior was confusing. Your behavior was protective, he corrected. And you had every right to protect yourself. The question now is, what do we do moving forward? Lisa looked up at him hopefully. What do you mean? Professor Williams smiled for the first time since the confrontation had begun. I mean, Dr. Rodriguez, that it's time for you to stop hiding. You have gifts that the world needs, and I'm going to help you find your way back to where you belong. The energy inside Carver Hawkeye Arena was electric that Thursday evening. Thousands of fans packed the stands, their voices creating a wall of sound that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. Iowa was playing Northwestern, and everyone knew what that meant. Caitlin Clark was about to put on another show, but in Section 104, Row A, Seat 12, something special was brewing. A 16-year-old girl named Mia sat in her wheelchair, clutching a poster board that had taken her 3 hours to make the night before. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from nerves about the game, but from the bold plan she had been thinking about for weeks. The poster was simple but eye-catching. In bright blue and gold letters, it read, Caitlin, I challenge you to a free throw contest after the game. Below that, she had drawn a basketball with flames around it and added her own little touch. A a small wheelchair symbol in the corner with a heart next to it. Mia had been born with spina bifida, a condition that affected her spine and legs. She had been using a wheelchair since she was 3 years old, but that never stopped her from falling in love with basketball. While other kids her age were playing video games or scrolling through social media, Mia spent hours at the Cedar Rapids Community Center, perfecting her free throw technique. Her mother, Rosa, sat beside her, constantly checking her phone to make sure she was capturing every moment. "Mia, are you sure about this?" she whispered in her daughter's ear. "What if she doesn't see the sign?" Mia turned to her mother with determination in her eyes. "Mom, I've been practicing for this moment for 2 years. Even if she doesn't see it, at least I tried. Besides, look around us." Rosa looked around and realized that several fans in their section had already noticed Mia's sign. An elderly man in the row behind them tapped her on the shoulder. "That's a pretty brave challenge. Young lady, I hope she sees it." A group of college students sitting nearby started chanting, "Show her the sign. Show her the sign." Their excitement was contagious, and soon other fans began looking over to see what the commotion was about. Mia's younger brother, Diego, who was 14 and never missed a chance to embarrass his sister, was surprisingly supportive today. He had his phone out recording everything. "This is going to be epic, Mia. Win or lose, you're already cooler than anyone at school." The truth was, Mia had been following Caitlin Clark's career since her freshman year. She watched every game, studied every move, and even learned to copy some of her shooting techniques. What drew her to Caitlin wasn't just the incredible skill or the way she could sink three-pointers from what seemed like impossible distances. It was something else entirely. Caitlin played with a fearlessness that Mia recognized in herself. Every time Caitlin stepped on the court, she played like she had something to prove. That feeling was something Mia knew all too well. Every time she rolled onto a basketball court, people looked at her differently. Some felt sorry for her. Others were impressed, but in a condescending way, like she was performing a cute trick. But Mia didn't want pity or patronizing praise. She wanted to be seen as a real basketball player, someone who could compete, who could make shots under pressure, who belonged on the court just like anyone else. At the community center, she had become something of a legend. The regulars all knew about her free throw streak. In practice sessions, she rarely missed more than 2 shots in a row. Her record was 47 consecutive free throws, a feat that impressed even the high school varsity players who sometimes practiced there. Coach Martinez, who ran the wheelchair basketball program, often told visitors, "That girl right there has the best free throw form I've seen in 20 years of coaching." Wheelchair or not, she could teach half the high school players in this city how to shoot. But tonight wasn't about impressing the regulars at the community center. Tonight was about something bigger. Mia had spent countless nights dreaming about this moment. She imagined what it would be like to actually meet her hero, to show her that inspiration could flow both ways. As the teams finished their warm-ups and headed back to their benches, Mia felt her heart racing. The game was about to start, and she still hadn't caught Caitlin's attention. Rosa squeezed her daughter's hand. "The game hasn't even started yet, Mia. Be patient." The opening tip-off sent the crowd into a frenzy. Iowa came out strong, with Caitlin immediately making her presence known. She scored the first basket of the game, a three-pointer from the top of the key that had the entire arena on their feet. During the first timeout, Mia held her sign high above her head. The fans around her started pointing and cheering, trying to get the players' attention. But Caitlin was focused on her coach, listening intently to the game plan. "She's locked in," Diego observed. "That's what champions do, they focus on the game first." Mia nodded, understanding completely. She had learned the same lesson in her own basketball journey. When you step onto the court, everything else disappears. The crowd, the pressure, even your own doubts. All that matters is the next play, the next shot, the next opportunity to prove yourself. As the first quarter continued, more and more fans in their section became aware of Mia's challenge. The energy was building, and people started taking pictures of her sign. A local sports reporter who happened to be sitting a few rows away even came over during a break in play. Mind if I ask you about that sign? He said kindly. Are you serious about challenging Caitlin Clark? Mia's face lit up. Absolutely. I practice free throws every day at the community center. I know it sounds crazy, but I really think I could give her a good contest. The reporter smiled. What's your success rate? In practice? About 93% over the last 6 months. In games, it's a little lower because of pressure, but still around 87%. The reporter's eyebrows raised. Those were impressive numbers for any basketball player, let alone a 16-year-old in a wheelchair. He scribbled some notes and asked for Mia's contact information. Win or lose tonight, I'd love to do a story about your basketball journey. As the second quarter began, Mia could feel the momentum building around her. What had started as a personal dream was becoming something much bigger. The fans in her section were now actively cheering for her challenge to be noticed. Someone had even started a small chant. Free throw contest, free throw contest. Rosa looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and amazement. Mia, look what you've started. Regardless of what happens with Caitlin, you've already inspired all these people just by being brave enough to make that sign. Mia smiled, but her eyes remained focused on the court. She was studying Caitlin's movements, her shooting form, the way she handled pressure situations. If this challenge actually happened, she wanted to be ready. The game was heating up, with both teams trading baskets. Iowa was up by 7 points, and Caitlin was having another spectacular performance. But for Mia, every possession was also a chance for her sign to be noticed. Little did she know that her moment was coming sooner than she expected. The second quarter was in full swing when it happened. Iowa had just called a timeout after Northwestern managed to cut their lead down to 3 points. The players gathered around their respective coaches, sweat dripping from their faces as they listened to instructions for the next play. Mia held her breath. This was her chance. She lifted her poster board as high as her arms could reach, waving it gently back and forth. The fans around her started cheering louder, pointing in her direction and trying to get the players' attention. Caitlin Clark walked toward the bench, her ponytail swaying as she moved. She was focused, intense, completely locked into the game. But as she reached for her water bottle, something made her look up into the crowd. Their eyes met. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Mia felt her heart stop beating. Caitlin was actually looking at her, reading her sign. The superstar's expression changed from game-focused intensity to surprise, then to something that looked like genuine interest. And then it happened. Caitlin Clark, the player Mia had watched on television hundreds of times, the person she admired more than anyone else in the world, looked directly at her and smiled. Not just any smile, but a warm, authentic smile that seemed to say, I see you. But Caitlin didn't stop there. She raised her hand and gave Mia a clear thumbs up, nodding her head as if to say, Challenge accepted. The crowd around Mia exploded. Diego nearly dropped his phone as he scrambled to make sure he was still recording. Rosa covered her mouth. With her hands, tears already forming in her eyes. The elderly man behind them started clapping so hard that other people turned to see what was happening. Did that really just happen? Mia whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the cheering crowd. It happened, Mija, Rosa shouted, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. She saw you. She really saw you. But the magic was just beginning. The timeout was ending, and the players were heading back onto the court. As they did, something unexpected happened. The arena's camera crew, who had been scanning the crowd during the break, had caught the entire interaction between Caitlin and Mia. Suddenly, Mia's face appeared on the giant jumbotron screen above center court. The image showed her holding her challenge sign with a caption that read, Local fan challenges Caitlin Clark to free throw contest. The entire arena erupted. 15,000 people were now cheering for a 16-year-old girl they had never met before. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, and absolutely incredible. Mia stared up at the screen in disbelief. There she was, her face dozens of feet tall, visible to everyone in the building. She had gone from being just another fan in the crowd to the center of attention in a matter of seconds. Wave, Mia! Diego shouted over the noise. Everyone's looking at you. Still in shock, Mia managed to lift her hand and wave at the camera. The crowd's cheering got even louder. Someone started a chant. Free throw contest! Free throw contest! Within moments, thousands of voices were joining in. Down on the court, even the Northwestern players were looking up at the screen and smiling. The referees waited patiently for the noise to die down before signaling for play to resume. Caitlin looked up at the Jumbotron one more time before the ball was put back in play. When she saw Mia waving at the crowd, she pointed directly at her and mouthed the words, "After the game." Mia felt like she might faint. This wasn't just a daydream anymore. This was really happening. The game resumed, but something had changed in the atmosphere. There was an extra energy in the building, a sense that something special was brewing. Every time Caitlin made a shot, the crowd would cheer a little louder and many fans would look over at Mia's section. During the next media timeout, the arena's public address announcer made it official. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special challenge brewing here tonight. 16-year-old Mia Rodriguez from Cedar Rapids has challenged our very own Caitlin Clark to a free throw shooting contest after tonight's game. Will Caitlin accept? Stay tuned to find out. The crowd went wild again. Mia couldn't believe they had announced her full name and hometown. Her phone started buzzing with notifications, friends from school, teammates from her wheelchair basketball league. Even people she barely knew were tagging her in social media posts. "Mia, look at your Instagram," Diego said, showing her his phone. "You've gained like 200 followers in the last 10 minutes. Rosa was getting texts from relatives across the country. Her sister in California had seen a video of the Jumbotron, moment that someone had already posted online. "The whole family is watching now," she told Mia. "Tia Carmen says she's recording the game." As the second quarter continued, Mia found herself watching Caitlin's free throw technique more carefully than ever before. Every time Iowa was fouled and Caitlin stepped to the line, Mia studied her form, her routine, her mental preparation. Caitlin had a very specific routine. She would bounce the ball exactly 3 times, take 2 deep breaths, and then shoot. Her form was textbook perfect. Elbow under the ball, consistent arc, soft touch. She made 4 out of 4 free throws in the second quarter. "She's really good," Mia admitted to her mother. "This might be harder than I thought." Rosa squeezed her daughter's hand. "Mia, you've been practicing for this your whole life, even if you didn't know it. Remember what Coach Martinez always tells you? Trust your form and let the shot go." The halftime break arrived and the arena was buzzing with conversation about the challenge. The local television broadcast team had picked up on the story, and they spent several minutes during halftime talking about Mia's basketball background. The reporter who had spoken to Mia earlier was now conducting quick interviews with fans in her section. "What do you think about this young lady's chances?" he asked the elderly man sitting behind Mia. "I've been coming to games here for 30 years, the man replied. "I've never seen anything like this. But you know what? Looking at that girl's confidence, I think she might surprise some people." A group of Iowa students had made their way over to Mia's section during halftime. "We saw you on the Jumbotron," one of them said. "That was so cool. Are you really going to challenge Caitlin Clark?" "That's the plan," Mia replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Dude, that's amazing," another student said. "We'll be cheering for you. What's your success rate?" "In practice, about 93%, Mia answered. The students looked impressed. "Whoa, that's actually really good. Caitlin shoots about 85% from the line this season." As the third quarter began, Mia realized that win or lose, this was already the most incredible night of her life. She had gone from being an anonymous fan to having thousands of people know her name and her story. The challenge itself was almost secondary to the amazing experience of feeling seen and supported by an entire arena full of strangers. But deep down, she knew the real test was still to come. The game would end eventually, and then she would have to prove that her challenge was more than just a publicity stunt. She was ready. The final buzzer echoed through Carver Hawkeye Arena as Iowa sealed their victory, 78-65. The crowd was on their feet, celebrating another dominant performance by their team. Caitlin Clark had put up 32 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds. It was another typical night for the superstar, but everyone in the building knew this wasn't going to be a typical post-game. As the Iowa players high-fived their way toward the tunnel, Mia felt her stomach flip with nerves. The moment she had dreamed about for months was finally here. Would Caitlin really remember her promise? Would she actually follow through on what had seemed like a casual gesture during the timeout? Maybe she forgot. Mia whispered to her mother, suddenly feeling very small in the massive arena. She probably has 100 things to do after the game. Rosa shook her head firmly. That girl looked you in the eyes and made you a promise, Mija. Champions don't break their promises. Diego was practically bouncing in his seat, his phone battery running low from recording everything. She's coming back out, I know it. This is going to be legendary. The arena was slowly emptying as fans headed for the exits, but something strange was happening in Mia's section. Instead of leaving, people were staying in their seats. Word had spread throughout the building about the challenge, and hundreds of fans were lingering, hoping to witness something special. Security guards were starting to rope off sections of the arena, preparing for the usual post-game cleanup. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of heading straight to the locker room for interviews and team meetings, Caitlin Clark walked back onto the court. She was still in her game uniform, her hair slightly messy from 2 hours of intense basketball. She looked up into the stands, scanning the crowd until she found Mia's section. When their eyes met again, Caitlin raised her hand and pointed directly at her. The remaining fans in the arena erupted in cheers. Mia felt like her heart was going to beat right out of her chest. Caitlin started walking toward the stands, but security immediately approached her. The guards were just doing their job, trying to maintain order and follow protocol. But Caitlin was having none of it. I made a promise to that young lady up there, she told the security team, her voice carrying enough authority that several fans nearby could hear her. I'm not breaking it. The head of security, a middle-aged man who had worked Iowa games for 15 years, looked up at Mia and then back at Caitlin. He had seen a lot of things in his time, but this was something different. This wasn't about getting autographs or taking selfies. This was about something bigger. What do you need, Miss Clark? He asked. I need to get up there and talk to that girl, and then I need this court cleared so we can have a free throw contest. The security chief nodded slowly. I'll need to check with the arena management, but I think we can make that happen. Within minutes, word had reached the arena's general manager. The decision was easy. This was exactly the kind of positive story that sports needed. The cleanup crew was told to wait, the court was kept clear, and Caitlin Clark was given permission to make her way up to Mia's section. As Caitlin climbed the steps toward section 104, the crowd that had remained in the arena grew louder with each step she took. Phones came out everywhere, capturing every moment of this unscripted, genuine interaction. When Caitlin finally reached Mia's row, she was slightly out of breath from the climb. She looked at Mia, then at the poster board that had started everything, and smiled that same warm smile from earlier in the game. So, Caitlin said, kneeling down to be at eye level with Mia, I heard you challenged me to a free throw contest. Mia's voice caught in her throat. Here was her idol, the player she had watched on television countless times, talking directly to her like they were old friends. Yes, I did. But I mean, if you're too busy or... Too busy? Caitlin interrupted with a laugh. Are you kidding? Me? I just scored 32 points in front of 15,000 people, and you think I'm too busy for a real challenge? The fans around them were hanging on every word. Rosa was crying happy tears, and Diego was frantically trying to record everything while also living in the moment. I have to ask, though, Caitlin continued, are you any good? Because I have a reputation to protect here. Mia felt some of her nervousness fade away. Caitlin's playful confidence was infectious. Well, my coach says I have the best free throw form he's seen in 20 years. 20 years, huh? Caitlin raised an eyebrow. That's a pretty big claim. What's your percentage? 93% in practice over the last 6 months. Caitlin's expression changed. The playful smile remained, but there was now a hint of genuine respect in her eyes. 93%? That's actually really impressive. I shoot about 85% during games. I know, Mia replied, then immediately blushed. I mean, I've watched all your games this season. Then you know I don't back down from challenges, Caitlin said, standing up. But I have to warn you, I've been practicing free throws since I was 7 years old. I've been practicing since I was 8, Mia shot back, surprised by her own boldness. Caitlin laughed out loud. Oh, it's like that? Okay then, let's go settle this on the court. The security team had been busy setting up a path from the stands to the court. Other arena staff members were quickly preparing for something that had never happened before in the building's history. A post-game free throw contest between a college superstar and a teenage fan. As Caitlin helped Mia navigate from her regular wheelchair to her sports wheelchair, she asked, "How long have you been playing basketball?" "Since I was little," Mia replied. "My dad put up a hoop in our driveway when I was 6, and I've been shooting ever since." "What's your dream?" Caitlin asked as they made their way toward the court. "I want to play college basketball." "Wheelchair basketball. There are some great programs out there, and I think I'm good enough to get a scholarship." Caitlin nodded seriously. "With a 93% free throw rate, I'd say you're definitely good enough. Which schools are you looking at?" As they talked, more and more fans were returning to their seats. Word was spreading on social media that something incredible was happening at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The local news stations were sending crews over, and the arena's social media team was broadcasting everything live. When they finally reached the court, Mia felt a surge of emotion that nearly overwhelmed her. She was on the same court where her hero played, where so many incredible moments in Iowa basketball history had taken place. The hardwood beneath her wheels felt sacred. "You ready for this?" Caitlin asked, picking up a basketball and spinning it on her finger. Mia looked around at the hundreds of fans who had stayed to watch, at her family cheering from the stands, at the cameras recording everything. 6 months ago, she had been just another kid practicing alone at the community center. Now she was about to compete against one of the best players in college basketball. "I've been ready my whole life," she said, and she meant every word. The basketball felt different in Mia's hands as she positioned herself at the free throw line. This wasn't the worn-out ball from the community center that she had shot thousands of times. This was an official game ball, perfectly inflated, with the grip that only comes from professional equipment. "Ladies first," Caitlin said with a grin, stepping back to give Mia space. "Show me what all that practice has been for." The arena had gone surprisingly quiet. Nearly 1,000 fans had decided to stay and witness this unprecedented moment. They lined the lower sections, their phones out but respectfully silent as Mia prepared for her first shot. Mia took a deep breath and went through her routine. She had developed it over years of practice, perfecting every detail until it became automatic. 3 bounces of the ball. Roll her shoulders back. Find her grip. Focus on the back of the rim. The ball left her hands with a perfect arc. It seemed to float through the air in slow motion before dropping cleanly through the net with a satisfying swish. The crowd erupted. Caitlin clapped her hands and nodded approvingly. Okay. I see you weren't kidding about that form. That was textbook. Perfect." "Your turn," Mia said, trying to keep the excitement out of her voice. Inside, she was screaming. She had just made a free throw in a college arena, with Caitlin Clark watching, and it had felt as natural as breathing. Caitlin stepped to the line with the casual confidence of someone who had done this thousands of times before. Her routine was different from Mia's but equally precise. 3 bounces, 2 deep breaths, a slight bend of the knees, and release. Swish. "Game on," Caitlin said, retrieving the ball and passing it back to Mia. What happened next surprised everyone, including the 2 players themselves. Shot after shot, both Mia and Caitlin found nothing but net. 5 shots each, then 10, then 15. The crowd was getting more and more amazed with each perfect shot. "This is incredible," Rosa whispered to Diego, who was recording everything from the stands. "She's not just keeping up with her, she's matching her shot for shot." By the 12th shot, even Caitlin was looking impressed. "Where did you learn to shoot like this?" she asked as they switched positions. "My first coach taught me that shooting from a wheelchair is actually an advantage for free throws," Mia explained, lining up for her 13th attempt. "Your base is always stable, so you can focus entirely on your upper body form." "That's actually really smart," Caitlin admitted. "I never thought about it that way." Mia's 13th shot was perfect, so was Caitlin's. The crowd was now counting, along with each shot, and the tension was building with every make. During this amazing display of skill, something beautiful was happening beyond just the basketball. As they waited for each other to shoot, the two players began talking about their journeys, their dreams, and their love for the game. "I started playing because my dad wanted me to have something that was mine," Mia shared as she prepared for her 16th shot. "He said basketball didn't care if you were in a wheelchair or not. The hoop was always 10 feet high for everyone." "Your dad sounds like a smart man," Caitlin replied. "What does he do?" "He's a mechanic. Works on cars all day, but he never misses my games. He built me a shooting machine in our garage so I could practice even when the community center was closed." Caitlin paused her own preparation to look at Mia with genuine respect. "A shooting machine? That's dedication." "What about you?" Mia asked. "When did you know you wanted to play college basketball?" "Honestly, when I was about your age and someone told me I wasn't good enough," Caitlin said, bouncing the ball slowly. "I decided to prove them wrong." Both players made their 16th shots. The arena was now buzzing with amazement. Even the arena staff had stopped their cleanup duties to watch this incredible display. "You know what's crazy?" Caitlin said as they moved into their 17th attempts. "I was nervous before this contest started." "You were nervous?" Mia couldn't believe it. "You just scored 32 points in front of 15,000 people." "That's different," Caitlin explained. "That's a game I've played a million times. This is something special. I didn't want to let you down." "Let me down?" Mia shook her head. "Are you kidding? 6 months ago, I was just a kid shooting alone in her garage. Now I'm on this court with you. Even if I miss every shot from here on out, this is already the best day of my life." Both players made their 17th shots. The crowd was now on their feet for every attempt. As they prepared for their 18th shots, Caitlin asked, "What's your biggest basketball dream?" "I want to play for Auburn," Mia said without hesitation. "They have the best wheelchair basketball program in the country. But honestly, after tonight, I think I want something even bigger." "What's that?" "I want to start a program for kids like me, kids who think they can't play sports because they're different. I want to show them that different doesn't mean less capable." Caitlin stopped bouncing the ball and looked at Mia with something approaching awe. That's incredible. That's bigger than basketball." "Basketball taught me that," Mia replied. "It taught me that limitations are often just excuses we make for ourselves." They both made their 18th shots. The crowd was now chanting 19, 19, as they prepared for what everyone hoped would continue this amazing streak. "Can I tell you something?" Caitlin said as Mia lined up for her 19th attempt. "I came into this thinking I was doing something nice for a fan, but you're teaching me something tonight." "What's that?" "You practice every day with challenges I'll never face, and you still shoot better than most of the players I compete against. That's not inspiration. That's just pure skill and dedication." Mia felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She had a shot to make. Her 19th attempt sailed through the air with perfect rotation and dropped cleanly through the net. Caitlin stepped to the line for her 19th shot. The arena was completely silent except for the sound of her bouncing the ball 3 times. She took her 2 deep breaths, bent her knees slightly, and released. The ball hit the back of the rim, bounced up, hit the front of the rim, and bounced out. The crowd gasped. For the first time in the contest, someone had missed. Caitlin stared at the rim in disbelief. Then she started laughing. 19 in a row and I miss on number 19? Are you kidding me? Mia had a chance to win. All she had to do was make her 20th shot, and she would have defeated one of the best basketball players in the country in a free throw contest. But as she prepared for what could be the winning shot, Something was bothering her. Something about the way Caitlin had missed. The form had been perfect, just like all her previous shots. The routine had been identical. And then Mia realized something that made her heart sink and soar at the same time. Caitlin Clark had missed that shot. On purpose.